Statue of Liberty started shaking her fist, and the eagle will fly, and it's gonna be here. I brought to you courtesy of the red, white, and blue.
It's time for Veterans Issues, the show that brings you information about veterans, military, and their family. Now here's your host, Ken Rollins.
Welcome to Veterans Issues. Appreciate you tuning in this week. Got a fellow on here I've been trying to get in touch with for a long time, and I know you're going to be glad to see him. Aaron Causey is here with us today, and we're going to talk to him about some experiences. Get your pen. Be right back. Welcome back to Veterans Issues. Ken Rollins. Today, we got a guy on here that a lot of you know about. I don't know very little about except what I read in the papers or on TV. His name is Aaron Causey. He's Sergeant First Class, United States Army, and he's here with us today. And welcome to the show, Aaron.
Thank you. Glad to be here.
Glad to be anywhere. Yep. Been trying every way in the world to get here. Let's go back with some history that people out there watching that don't know about you, and I'm gonna learn with them. You were from this area, or?
I graduated high school from Alexandria in 1997.
Wow.
And went to Gadsden State for a little bit, then Jacksonville State, then dropped out of college the middle of my senior year, actually in 2000, to join the military.
So you was a Cub.
I was a Valley Cub.
There you go. And you went in the military, the United States Army. Where'd you go in?
I initially joined the Air Force, actually.
You was crazy for a while, wasn't you?
Well, I joined the Air Force in December of 2000. Went off to Lackland Air Force Base for basic training, then went to Eglin Air Force Base for Explosive Ordnance Disposal School, Military Bomb Squad.
Gotcha.
So I was there until August of 2001. I was actually the last class to graduate the school before 9/11 happened. And then I was actually home on leave when 9/11 happened, and then I reported to my first unit in Aviano, Italy. I stayed Aviano, Italy until December of 2005, did a deployment to Iraq, and then went all over the world working with a lot of different operations groups while I was stationed in Italy. Then December 2005, got out of the Air Force and joined the Army.
Was all that with EOD stuff?
It was. I was EOD the entire time.
You know, I was thinking when you told me earlier about that, in Vietnam, you know, the things have changed so much over the years, the weapons that the enemy uses versus
Right.
back then it was, there was a lot of people losing limbs and stuff to the old mines and stuff, and a lot of them were just kind of like IEDs. They would take a grenade and have a string to a wire to the pin, and it would the first vehicle would pull the pin, and it would get the fifth or sixth vehicle. This would be in the road with a stick sticking up with something to the wire, and the first vehicle would pull that wire, and the pin had 5 seconds back. The next vehicle would get blown up from the bottom. So all the vehicles around it, Jeeps and everything, had sandbags in the floor. You had to drive with your knees up to your face. But it was the times that we lived in, and the EOD was, I mean, they had some mine sweepers and things like that, but the enemy over there was they had their traps. They pull a limb back, had punji stakes on it.
Oh yeah.
But listen to this now. They had the limbs that was 6 feet off the ground. Short limbs, they wouldn't pull them back, and they put a trip wire on it and punji stakes at 6 foot. So Americans, they'd get you. Vietnamese trip it, you'd go right over their head. And that they were smart like that much smarter than we were to the place they lived. And I see that in Afghanistan, that these people that live in those mountains are.
Yeah, it's the same in Iraq and Afghanistan. The thing with those types of things, it's all up to the imagination, the ingenuity of whoever's making it as to what resources they have and funds and the availability of the items and what's really around them to do it. So depending on what terrain you're in as to what you have to work with. It's the same thing. I always compare it to this. It's the same thing as to, should someone ever invade the U.S., the redneck engineering that would come out of the South, basic, simple, effective. Doesn't matter where you go, you're going to have the same stuff everywhere you go.
Back in the days, they could catch a rabbit, they could catch a deer, and they didn't have any fancy traps, but they
Right.
ingenuity won over the day. But that was what you was doing for the folks out there. Do you go out, if a group is going out on a roadway, did you go out with and check that roadway before they?
So my job as EOD, Military Bomb Squad, was not to go out looking for stuff, but to respond when it was
somebody found
found. So you'd have route clearance people that would go out with specialized equipment to check the road, and if depending on sorry. So depending on Iraq or Afghanistan, or even the location of the region within where they're operating, we may be embedded inside that convoy going out. In a high ID threat area, we're usually embedded, so when they come across something, we move up, take care of it, and we keep moving on to the next one that they find. And in some areas, we're response only, whereas they go out and do all that stuff, and then if they find something, we respond to them, because we may be so busy in certain areas that we're hopping from location to location to location, and then in smaller areas, we'll be embedded inside the dismounted operation on marches, and if something's found on the march, we'll move forward and we'll take care of it.
The IED, improvised explosive device, is like the redneck thing you're talking about. These are improvised. They're not something you pull off of a diagram chart or something. Is there something common between all of their IEDs, or is each one got its own character?
Every region and every country has its own little things. It literally is up to the ingenuity of who's making it. There will be some that are very similar in different areas. There will be engineers, they'll put out what they want in certain areas, and they'll be made, but it's all up to that individual bomb maker.
Yeah, well, I've seen them where in Afghanistan, where they would have some that were remotely set off, and some of them were by cell phone, some of them were pressure, and various things. And I just wondered if there was some kind of, like, always look for the red wire, blue wire, whatever. Do they have some kind of a?
That's pure movies.
Okay.
The red wire, like I said, you'll
Well,
have.
red wire always, to me, is a hot one to get that one. But I just wondered if they had something that you could, when you saw one, what you automatically say, this is what I got to do to disarm it. So, you know what I'm saying? It's, you come up on one, you just got to figure it out.
You have to treat each one as its own unique problem. Never make any assumptions about what you're dealing with, because that's the quickest way to get yourself killed or injured.
I'd assume one thing if it was me, that there's somebody out there watching me and my actions regarding what they just planted out there, that they're off somewhere
Absolutely.
watching to see what's going on. We got to go to a break and we'll come back. We're going to talk more about this. I want to get more deep in the grass about it. And we'll come back, we're going to talk more with Sergeant First Class Aaron Causey. Stay where you are. Welcome back to Veterans Issues. We're talking with Aaron Causey, and we're talking about his story. That you was in Iraq and Afghanistan, you said,
Yes, sir.
and then you were injured in Afghanistan.
Yes, sir.
Gotcha. And what year was that?
2011.
All right. And most of the people know that you was handling an IED or?
So I was actually prepping for a 5-day dismounted operation when I got called out to a ID. It was underneath the culvert, drainage ditch under a roadway, and I went out and identified that I saw what had been called in. There was a package underneath the culvert, inside the culvert, and what the military did was they do culvert denial systems, different ways of keeping people from getting into the culverts and placing explosives there. So what they did was regular T-posts they nailed in on either side of the culvert and wrapped it with concertina wire. Well, someone still got in there and put something in there. And so identifying that it looked too pretty. It's about the only way to put it. And identified the wire that came out of it. And I was able to track the wire back, and it ended, which means that wasn't an actual ID. We call those hoaxes. They're fake IDs. And usually the only reason those are there are to draw us in and to target us directly, which meant, excuse me, which meant that there was real IDs there that I hadn't seen, hadn't identified. So went back to my truck, talked through my plan of attack with my team members, sanity check it so that make sure I don't get tunnel vision into the wrong route, and they're there to keep me focused on the broader picture and everything. Went back down range with the metal detector and got close enough to concertina wire it wasn't going to work. So I went to set my metal detector down and for some reason took a step forward to stabilize myself. And that was the last step I ever took.
When you're doing that, your communications with your group is how? Not
So-
the radio, is it?
No.
Because you blow yourself up.
Depending. Excuse me. I always carried a radio on me, but it was to receive communication. If I'm in a communication back with my guys, I'm going to use hand signals, or I'm going to go back and do a face-to-face talk through.
Yeah, I'd want to.
I always carried a radio on me, so if they saw something moving, somebody moving in towards me or something else around me, they're seeing something in the broader spectrum, they could get my attention and get me back if they needed to.
Okay, so you stepped on by pressure. Was
There's a
what
pressure plate.
Pressure plate. And then, how would you medevac?
So, so at that point, I have a rule. Most EOD most EOD team leaders have the same rule, and it prevents other people from getting injured. Because just because there's one ID doesn't mean there's not more. And there were actual multiple IDs around me.
Wow.
So the rule is the senior team member comes forward by himself down your path that you took so they know that's safe. They come down, they take care of any other hazards around you. They either then pull you up to the safe area and then walk back and then walk in the medic. But they're not allowed to start working on you until that area is cleared and safe.
Wow.
And there's no running, it is walking. Because if you start running, you're going to make a mistake. Trip, fall, you're not going to focus on the broader picture. And so you have to make sure, that team member has to make sure that that area is safe so that no one else coming down gets injured.
Well, I'm in my picture in my mind is did you have both legs blown off at the same time?
I did.
So they're looking at double amputee. They can't start working on you until they've cleared.
Yep.
So how long do you think that was? 3 weeks?
Honestly.
Felt
So
like?
I don't remember anything
I got
after the point of getting blown up.
Wow.
I've been told I regained consciousness a little bit, but excuse me.
which
so-
is a blessing in a way.
Yeah, it was a blessing because no memory, no visualization of the pain or anything. So from there, I got helicoptered out, medevaced out to Kandahar, and then that's when they started all the initial like major trauma work on me. Then I flew from Kandahar to Landstuhl, Germany.
That's what I was going to say, because normally it would be in a field like that would be a stabilizing, and then to Germany. You know, they've done that for years. I mean, back to Vietnam.
Right.
It's always been Landstuhl, and I just wondered if they've got the abilities in Kandahar to stabilize somebody like that.
Kandahar has what's called a Role 1. It's essentially it's a high-level trauma center. They can do about anything there. Some of the best military trauma surgeons are at that location, so they can deal with everything from amputations to burns, every level of injury to get them fixed, stabilized, and on to the next level.
I heard a doctor, they were talking about Walter Reed and something. They said, this doctor, he said, I got 36 years as a ER, stage 1, whatever, high velocity trauma. He said 6 months in Afghanistan outranks that. He said you get more surgery that is life changing. It's just on the brink. You wouldn't do that in a regular place. There'd be so many others before you, the specialists in this and specialists in that. Whereas a MD, a general doctor, you might be doing brain surgery before the night's out if it's your time, your shift. And he said, I got more. He said, so they were talking about the different types of doctors, you know, but they were talking, actually the story was about Obamacare, about the doctors out there not going to be any more MDs because of Medicaid costs, that they're not going through school. And that brought up the subject of, well, I was an MD and I am an MD, but I've done more brain surgery than most brain surgeons in some of the hospitals. He said, you know, didn't have a choice. It's a life or death situation. It wasn't like it's my shift at the general hospital, you know. I want to make sure that. Oh, and you got your track here too.
I do.
Me and you got the envy of a lot of folks. You know. So Jeff over here on the floor, he'd like to have one, but I won't let him borrow mine. And you live in Riverside now, you said.
I do. I built a house in Riverside.
That is great, and I like the way you told me you built it, and that is awesome. And that Independent Foundation, is that Sinise Garrison?
No.
He's with the Stillers.
He has his own.
The Gary Sinise Foundation.
Gary Sinise Foundation. Actually, America's Fund is the one who got me my.
You ever met Gary?
Yeah, I've met. He actually had a private viewing of the documentary that was done on me and my wife.
Wow. I got a special place in my heart for him, and you got some youngins.
I have one daughter.
What's her name?
She's Alexandra Jane. AJ.
AJ. Hey AJ, we got to go. Aaron, I appreciate you doing this, man.
Absolutely.
God bless you. Thank you for your service. We got to go. Be right back. Welcome back to Veterans Issues. I do appreciate Aaron Causey from coming on doing the show today. Learned a lot, but the bad part of it is I left about a half a page of things I wanted to ask him. So maybe he'll come back again. We can follow up. But what American hero! Just an awesome guy. We lost a great Marine last week, Dan Long. Dan's been on the show so many times, and mostly as the Young Marines leader, and he's also been on here with the Toys for Tots. And we'll keep him in your prayers, him and his family, Mindy and all of them, and the Young Marines. They're taking it real hard. So y'all keep that family and everybody. Now we lost another patriot and a good friend. He's the director. I was the director of the Birmingham Medical Center over there, Birmingham VA, Thomas Smith, and he passed away Saturday. And he's been on the show several times, and he's a dear friend of mine and a dear friend to all veterans and to this show. So remember Dr. Smith and all that. Now I want to give some shout outs this week because I'm getting flack that people said I'm not doing that. I haven't done it in a while. So I want to send out a shout out to my old buddy, and I don't mean she's old, but she is a friend of mine for a lot of years. She's from down in Gulfport, Mississippi. She watches every week, and her name is Darlene Battles, and her husband is Jerry J. And y'all remember Jerry J? You don't remember Jerry J? Hello, Josephine. How do you do? That's her husband. And she's a great singer, too. I wonder also David Wilkins, he watches every week. He's up in Nashville, Tennessee. Guy Harden, the same thing in Nashville. And Scott Farragher up in Nashville. These are people I've worked with, and all of you know little David Wilkins from all his big hits. And I want to remind you about Toys for Tots. It's that time of year we have got to have them. These kids, this is the only toys they get. Only Christmas they get, some of them, is Toys for Tots. So remember them. If you see that little red choo-choo train out there, that's who we're looking for. And don't forget S&B Cleaners. If you need your home cleaned around Christmas or whatever, 256-454-4616. And this show is brought to you by Superior Hyundai Cadillac. If you want that GMC pickup or the big Cadillac for Christmas, go up on top of the hill up there at the used to be Classic, and you know where it's at, and the Superior down on the bottom. Now, keep this in mind. If you buy a new Hyundai or a new Cadillac, new GMC, we're talking about $500 off. If you're a veteran, you got a DD214, you got $500 off. Now, if you say, I saw it on Veterans Issues, you got another $500 off. So I saved you $1,000. Go up there and see Mac and all them guys at Superior Hyundai Cadillac. The VA hotline out there, I got to put that out because we hadn't done it. With the crisis line, 1-800-273-8255. Press 1 when the voice comes on. This time of the year is really, really hard on veterans. So if you know one out there, keep that number handy. And the other number at the White House that is for all things veteran is 855-948-2311. And let's see. Lowe's card, if you've got a Lowe's card, is no good anymore to say I got a card. You got to give me your phone number, and you got to go on Lowe's.com/military and do that. And I don't know how much time I got left, but okay, let's see here. We'll just say that we've got very little left, at 30 seconds or so, and I'm going to get this week, and we give out a salute to everybody that has walked past one of those boxes and dropped something in for Toys for Tots, or is working as a volunteer with the Toys for Tots folks. It's a big thing this time of the year. So this is for you. This salute comes at a very expensive price, and we'll see you next week on Veterans Issues. Here we go.